Project 25 total.
Very nice. So as usual, we start with 20s, 15. There is no excitement. Maybe the excitement will come when we say, today you will get some 50% off in Amazon if you attend today's class or something like that. So not sure, how to get people excited about Krishna consciousness. But nevertheless, I'm sure that, not everyone will get excited. It is Krishna's mercy and blessings, which is very rare. So whoever is able to understand, whoever is able to participate in this particular activity, actually is very lucky, very fortunate. And whoever is not able to, we can only pray for them so that they get good understanding and realization, using which they can start uh, on this journey of attaining to the supreme. So having said all this, I think today we will start the class in a different format. What we will do is, uh, I want all of you to see the videos first, and try to understand what is there in the video yourself first, so that first of all we will show you the video, and you try to grasp what is happening in that video. And during the course of the class, when I will start explaining, that time you will be able to link to what happened in that particular video. So before that, I just want to see how many people have joined. It's still 29. Okay, I think people may take time, not sure. Today is Saturday, weekend, party time. So find it very difficult to join Bhagavad Gita class. So anyway, let's hope that 70 people come, so that I can give you the good news. But if they don't come, then I have to keep delaying till the time they come. So let's start. I think Akshay Prabhu,
It's Prabhuji.
what you can do is, you can just go to 27th slide straight away,
Okay, Prabhuji.
and show them the videos.
Okay, Prabhuji.
You just show them the videos so that they can understand what is happening in the video, and then we'll come back to the class.
Sure, Prabhuji.
Yeah. So all of you be attentive and please hear very carefully. These videos, what we are showing you, just see that very carefully. You may have seen it in the past, but just want you to see it again.
Shall I start, Prabhuji?
Yes, Prabhu, yes. Each of the videos you can show them.
Okay, this is 27, and after some video is there?
I think if there is any video before that, if you're seeing any video before that, you can play all the videos, Prabhu.
Then let me see.
Yeah. All the videos in the PPT, you can play that. One after another.
Okay, Prabhuji.
Okay, we have 36 participants. So you're all going to see the video first. There are some videos in this slideshow, so you will be seeing the videos now. And after seeing the video, you have to try to understand yourself what is happening in that video. Keep that registered in your mind. As we go to that stage of this particular chapter, the video will be very clear and evident to you. But the video will not be played again. This video will be played first, so that you can take a look at it and try to understand as many things as possible from the video. So this is our planetary system, solar system. There is a particular reason why this video has been played, so please observe very carefully. I think you can forward it, Prabhu. Maybe you can forward it. Take it towards the end. This is a 1 hour video. Okay. So this is basically, our solar system and how the planets are in its orbits and all those things. Just the image of that. Keep these things in your mind when you're just seeing it. Keep this in your mind. So this is trailer before the movie starts, how they show trailer. So we are actually showing you some trailers so that, you should be thinking what is all this, what is happening. And later on, when we start explaining, things will become very clear to you. 27, I think you can go to slide mode 27, Prabhu. Sorry, Akshay Prabhu, I'm giving you a lot of trouble, but I thought of changing the format today so that
No,
we can-
Prabhuji. No. It's okay. This is 27, Prabhuji.
no, apart from this, there is one more. There are two more videos actually.
Okay, Prabhuji.
Let's see how many people have joined the class. Okay, 38. 7 minutes have passed.
Prabhuji, any other slide? I could not.
Okay, that's fine. So what we'll do, I think one video you were able to show. There is one more about all these birds, plants, and aquatics, and especially life. Just go back to the slideshow. In the sense, you get the slides on the left side, right? What is that? Yes. Scroll down. Slowly, be slow, Prabhu, so that I can tell you which one. Go down, down. Yeah. Yeah, keep going, Prabhu. Yeah, keep moving up. Slowly. Yeah, just keep moving up. Yeah, keep going. Yeah, keep scrolling, Prabhu. I'll tell you. Slowly, you keep scrolling up. I'll keep telling you. Okay. Somehow or the other, I'm not able to find that video here. I don't know why. Okay. Just keep going, Prabhu. Let's see. Now we can scroll a bit fast because I can tell you if it is there or not. No, it's not there. That's fine. So I'll just show them. They'll not be able to hear the audio, but it's okay. I can show them the video. No problem, Prabhu. So you can stop the presentation. I'll share the screen.
Prabhuji, that moment I can share if you tell the slide number. Maybe you can try that time.
Yes, we'll do that. So now you can stop sharing. I'll start sharing now, Prabhu. Okay. Akshay Prabhu, you can let me know when you're able to see my screen.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Actually, this is the video which I was telling you, but I don't know why it is not visible to you. But anyway,
Prabhuji, this video we played. That
okay.
System.
Fine. There's one more video. That's fine. Okay. So today's chapter is chapter number 15. But before that, let's have a quick revision. All of you, please stay focused because this chapter is very important, and I want you to be completely focused. This chapter is about the yoga of the Supreme Person. In the sense, if you don't understand this chapter, there is no need of understanding about Krishna. You can keep all the books closed and go to sleep. Okay. So we have to understand why this chapter is very important. It has very less shlokas, hardly 20 shlokas, but those 20 shlokas actually are the punch. They give the punch of the entire, Bhagavad Gita. It's like, the killer punch. For example, when there is a boxer, he's fighting a match, but there is one punch which wins him the goal, which wins him that, the point. So that punch is, there in this particular chapter, which is the 15th chapter. So before that, I just want to take you through a brief introduction, or just want to give you a quick recap of what happened earlier. Okay. So I'm repeating again. First 6 chapters are talking about karma. Then the next 6 chapters are talking about bhakti, and the last 6 chapters are talking about jnana. So Jnana means knowledge. So knowledge about whom? Knowledge about Krishna. Okay. And what will you do with that knowledge? With that knowledge, you will be able to understand the person, and understanding the person, you can engage fully in his devotional service. So this is the overall concept of the Bhagavad Gita. Now, here we were talking about in the last class, that is yesterday's class, we were talking about the three ropes. Okay. And we called the chapter in short was called as a trap, because these ropes are the ropes which bind us. And any activity that we are doing in this particular world, the positives, the negatives, the happiness, the distress, and all the situations, the pleasant and the unpleasant, all the situations are happening because of these three modes of material nature. And everybody who's there in the material world is actually influenced by the three modes of material nature. But Krishna gave a medicine. First, there was a problem statement. The problem statement is, what is causing us happiness and distress? What are the things that are leading us to happiness and distress? So the three modes of material nature, which is sattva-guna, tamoguna, and rajoguna, these are leading us to happiness and distress. Now, as usual, before we start the class, today's class, we will definitely have to offer our obeisances and prayers to all the acharyas who are guiding us. So we will start with the prayers as usual. So I will say the prayers. All of you can hear attentively, and later on, we will give you classes on how to recite these prayers also. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakhaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Tadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगणा रघुनाथां वितां स्तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादा सहगणा ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च हे कृष्णा करुणसिन्धो दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिकान्त राधाकान्त नमोऽस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरंगे राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे. Okay, so we have offered all prayers, we have taken the blessings. So let's start the 14th chapter. Previous chapter was the 14th chapter. We already spoke about the three modes. Race for prominence. What is a race? Race can happen if you're alone, you cannot run a race. Have you seen any Olympics where a single person is running a race? No. So there has to be multiple people. So who are these multiple villains in our life who are running the race in our life? They are the three modes, which is goodness, passion, and ignorance. Whether you're in the mode of goodness, whether you're in the mode of passion, or whether you're in the mode of ignorance, you are in a trap. Now, I told you yesterday why goodness is also a trap, because in goodness you have knowledge, and with knowledge, what happens? Pride comes, and because of pride, you tend to fall down, and you feel that, yes, I have so much of knowledge, so I have nothing more to know. So, with that pride, you tend to stay bound in this place, and you get binded, and you stay back here in this world. So, goodness can lead to that. Now, passion and ignorance, as it is, these are not very favorable modes for spiritual practice. So passion and ignorance are by default binding you in this material life. So a person who's very passionate, he's very aggressive, he wants to achieve things, and he's like a go-getter. You see advertisements that we need a go-getter. That means that he's a passionate person. You have to go and do things yourself. So there is no need of any trigger. He does not need an alarm, but he's driven by a goal. And because he's driven by a goal which is non-Krishna conscious and which is materialistic in nature, and where he thinks that he is the doer, he gets stuck, he gets bound. Okay. Next, the final one is a person who's lazy, who's very relaxed, is mad. Why is mad? Pramadha, Nidra Alasya, we discussed yesterday. So nidra alasya, nidra means always sleeping. Alasya means always lazy. Pramada means he's mad. Why is he mad? I give you example that because he's smoking, drinking, he knows that he has to spend money to smoke, but he still smokes. He knows that he has to spend money to drink, but he still drinks. But what does he get? At least does he get anything good out of smoking and drinking? No, zero. No use of smoking, no use of drinking. He gets bad result. On top of that, his health is also at risk, and he has to suffer bodily also. So we have to understand that these three modes are actually tempting us to do wrong things, but we have to get out of this. So the race is happening. One day I'm behaving nicely. Second day, I'm behaving very aggressively. Third day, I'm very lazy. So the most prominent sign within me or the most prominent behavior that I show to the external world determines what is the mode of nature that I have in prominence within me. Okay. Next, actions in three modes. I already told you what are the three actions. A person who's in goodness, he's always peaceful, and at the same time, he has sufficient knowledge, but he should not misuse it. A person in passion is very aggressive. He's a go-getter, and a person in ignorance is very lazy, foolish, and mad. And why mad? I already told you. And how to get pure life in the sense how to get rid of these problems. It is very simple. Engage in devotional service, and by engaging in devotional service, you are actually transcending the modes and directing everything to the Supreme Lord. So you are not actually trapped by these modes of nature. So this is the first slide of, and this was just a recap of yesterday's session. Okay. Now let's go to today's chapter, summary of today's class. So we are, in short, we are calling it as home. All of you like your home houses, right? We all enjoy being at our homes. A simple example is, all of you go on a vacation, and you would have seen that, you have struggled throughout the year, and now you want to take a vacation. But even if you go for a vacation, after a few days, you feel like returning back to your house. So, and you see the feeling that you would have gone for a vacation and you would have enjoyed so many things in that place, but when you come back home, there is a sense of relaxation, there is a sense of peace, there is a sense of satisfaction which you get when you come back to your house. So I'm sure all of you would have experienced this, and all of you can share your experience once we end this class. But just imagine the feeling when you return back to your house, how comfortable you feel, how nice you feel, and you feel that this is my territory, I'm very secure here, and I feel very comfortable in my house. So we have to understand that our house, is it our real house? Are we back home, or is it like a hotel? So you went and stayed somewhere in some hotel in you, for example, people like to go to Kashmir, or people like to go to Kanyakumari, or people like to go to some Mauritius, Philippines, or somewhere, people want to go to some place and they want to enjoy. But when they go there, they take a hotel on rent, okay, and they stay there. So they have some facilities for few days and then they come back to their houses. But is their house a permanent house? That is a question here. So your house, is it actually your house, or is it like a hotel, just like a hotel where you stay for a few days and get out? So actually the home that you say, this is my home, this is a rented home. Some people say that this is a rented home. What rented home? Your own house is also rented. Krishna has given you on rent for few days. Yes, maybe you don't have to pay any rent, but actually it is rented to you by the Lord. So we have to understand that even your own house is actually real house, but your real house is when you get back to the Lord. So that is the first part, and that is covered in the first 5 shlokas. How this place is not your ideal home, the real home, first 5 verses of this chapter. The next 6 verses, sorry, the next 5 verses, which is 6 to 11, they talk about on and on, over and over again. So this is repeated birth and repeated death, how it happens, why it happens, and how an intelligent person is able to understand this. Okay. So there is a clear explanation given how, why, and how an intelligent person can understand why we are going into different bodies. That is there. That is what is explained in on and on, over and over again, that section. Okay. The third section is maintainer of body, mind, and soul. So who's the maintainer of body, mind, and soul? That is explained in the 12th to 15th verses, which is the third section. And the last section, which is the essence of everything, is there in the last 3 verses. And that we will tell you when we get to that stage. So I will explain in detail the last 3 verses when we get to that stage, why it has all the essence of the entire Bhagavad Gita is there in those 3 verses. Okay. Next, we go to the chapter. The first section is home or hotel. I already gave you explanation. Okay. Now, I'm sure all of you are able to see this inverted tree. Okay. Have you ever seen an inverted tree in your life? So, if you actually see in the first shloka of this chapter, Krishna is saying the material world, he's compared it to a banyan tree which is upside down. Now, has anyone seen a banyan tree which is upside down? No. We have not seen a banyan tree which is upside down, but we have seen a banyan tree which is, which is properly situated, where it is, it is downside up, the reverse. Okay. Or as it is, we have seen a banyan tree, right? But we have not seen it upside down. But it is possible to see a banyan tree or any tree upside down if you actually have a water body below the tree. And if you look into the water body, the that particular tree will actually be seen upside down. Okay. So we have to understand why this narration is given, why this tree is upside down, or whether it is proper, why this explanation is given. That we will go into the first look and see why that is there. So here, what I told you just now, I'm just showing you an image. You can see in the water there is a reflection of the tree. Okay. And you can see that it is a distorted image, because when the wind moves and the water shakes, that time, you see that the trees are there, but it is inverted. It is inverted in appearance, although it is not inverted. So what are we trying to show through this image, or what is Krishna trying to say in the first shloka? With this image, we are just trying to explain. So Krishna is saying the material world is actually a perverted reflection of the spiritual world. Perverted reflection means there is a tree, and that tree has perfect form and shape. But when you see the image of the tree in water, you see that it is distorted. It looks disturbed. It is not looking real, or it is looking very shaky or not up to the mark. So that is the difference between material world and spiritual world. Why? Because spiritual world is perfect and material world is imperfect. So whatever you try to do in this world, you try to bring the best government, you try to bring the best person, best administrator, best king, best of facilities, you do whatever you want, but it will not last for long. So that is the nature of this particular world. So you're trying to make perfection out of an imperfect place, which is impossible. So Krishna is giving you that introduction in the first shloka of the 15th chapter, which is the yoga of the supreme person. Okay. So now let's see why spiritual world versus material world. I already told you that this is the difference between the spiritual world and the material world. You can see the beauty of the spiritual world and the material beauty. Krishna's beauty, we have already described that the 64 qualities of Krishna, and exclusively only Krishna has those 64 qualities, and beauty is one of them. So you can see the spiritual beauty and you can see the material beauty. Both children are born, and both children, one, Krishna's appearance, he says that Janma Janma karma chame divyam means my appearance and my activities are all transcendental. That means that it is not like you, it is different, it is spiritual, and it is transcendental. Okay. So you can see when a baby is born in this world, it comes out with so much of suffering. Although the parents may be enjoying, telling that, oh, my child is born, oh, my, successor is born, or whatever, they feel so happy that a child is born. But if you actually see, the child is suffering. It is under a miserable condition. It is crying, and it is closing its eyes, and there are wrinkles all over its face. There is blood all over its body, and all these things. And people are enjoying and celebrating and cutting cakes and bursting crackers and whatnot to announce the celebration of a child. Now the child is not celebrating. Everybody else apart from the child and the mother is also suffering. Everybody else apart from the child and the mother is celebrating. Okay. So this is how we enter into the material world with so much of pain, but we are trying to make so much of happiness and peace in this world, which is impossible. So this is the first difference between spiritual beauty and material beauty. So I said material world is a perverted reflection of the spiritual world. Now, let's see what is this positive axis and negative axis. So, on the top, you can see somebody is very happy. Okay. And in between, you can see somebody who is very peaceful. And in the bottom, you can see somebody who is suffering. So, in this world, we have three choices. Either we can become transcendentally situated, we get out of the three modes of see the face on the top. That is the goal. We want to be eternally happy. Second, there are people, yesterday we were discussing about Brahman. So those who want to go to the Brahman stage, they want to be at peace. They don't want to have happiness or at peace always. And they want to be relaxed, not disturbed, and they want to be peacefully situated. For those people, the second stage or the middle stage is there, which is the Brahman realization, where they see the energy of the Lord, which is the effulgence of the Lord, and they want to merge with the effulgence and they meditate on that energy of the Lord, and they get to that stage where they can be peacefully situated. But you see the image in between, it is neither happy nor it is sad. So if you actually see, nobody wants to be in that situation. Yes, everybody wants to be peaceful, but just imagine all of you, you are staying in a very crowded place, and I pull you out of that place, and you say that I want to be at peace, I want to be at peace. Then I put you in the midst of Himalayas. So, and there is all peace, you are all alone in between nature. How long can you survive like that? So you have to understand that at some point, you will feel that, oh, this is boring, I have nobody to interact, I'm all at peace, that is fine, but I need some interaction. So then what happens, you feel that difference, that I should have been interacting with someone, there should be some interactions. So that is why the spiritual bliss takes you to the topmost platform, where you can interact with the supreme person and his companions. So that is what we are targeting to achieve. Okay, let's go to the next slide. So the most beautiful people in this world, please see them after 50 years. You can see them like this, or there are so many images, and you would have seen your own parents or grandparents or whoever it is. You would have already seen so many people, and you will see yourself. Forget seeing others. You are seeing yourself when you were a child, how you were and how you are now, and how you will be in future. That will be evident to you when you see in the mirror, and you can also see your photos to see how beautiful you were in the past and how beautiful you are now, how beautiful you will be in the future. That is very evident in this world. So beauty is only skin deep. Next. So from material world to spiritual world by detachment and surrender. So there are two important things, detachment and surrender. We have to be detached and we should surrender. Now, detached from what and surrender to what? Detached from material attachments and surrender to the Supreme Lord. How is it possible? That is what Krishna explains, and he's giving knowledge about himself, so that using that knowledge, you can surrender to him and detach from all the material attachments. Okay. So, in one sense, you have to have attachment. Attachment to whom? Attachment to Krishna. And detachment from whom? Detachment from Krishna's separated entities or the material energies. So we have to be separated from, and we have to make sure that we are attached to Krishna. So the first shloka, it begins like this, of the 15th chapter. Shri Bhagavanu Vacha Urdhvamulamadashakam Ashwatham Prahuravyayam Chandamsi Yasya Parnani Yastam Vedasa Veda Ved. So what is Krishna saying? Material world is like an upside down banyan tree. So I told you this is the difference between spiritual and material world. So why is it like an upside down banyan tree? Because it looks like a banyan tree, but it is actually not. So that is what is the image also we showed, where it is distorted. It is distorted. It is not the real image. You will not see such a banyan tree, upside down banyan tree in this world, unless you see it in water, which is what is seen in that image. Okay, but why is Krishna trying to say that? Let's get into that. So he says this because in the second shloka he says adhascho adhaschordvam अधश्चोर्ध्वं प्रसृतास्तस्य शाखा गुणप्रवृद्धा विषयप्रवाला अधश्च मूलान्यनुसन्ततानि कर्मानुबन्धीनि मनुष्यलोके. This is the second shloka, and this second shloka here he is saying this adhaschordvam prashrtas tasya shakha. Okay, adha means downwards, and adhaschordvam prashrtas tasya shakha. Shakha means branches. So here he's saying that its branches are spreading up and down. So you would have seen a banyan tree. Just start imagining. Okay, your mind is very sharp. If I say imagine Rasgulla, you will all imagine Rasgulla. If I say imagine Amit Shah, you will all imagine Amit Shah. If I ask some, tell some beautiful name, Bollywood actor's name, you will all imagine her also. And so I'm very confident that the mind is very capable of imagining things, although they are physically not in present in front of you. Still, you can imagine. So keeping that ideology, just try to imagine the branches spreading up and down. banyan tree. Now you would have all seen a banyan tree. It has branches spreading up and down. In the sense, you can see branches on the top, on the bottom also. So it spreads. So others chodvam prashrutas tasya shakha. It has branches. This material world has branches spreading up and down. Okay. It is nourished by what? This particular banyan tree. How is it nourished? In this material world, if you see a banyan tree, you see that you have to pour water, and with that, the tree gets nourishment. So in the material world, what is the nourishment that all the jivas get? These three modes, which we told you yesterday, which is goodness, passion, and ignorance. That gives the nourishment. That gives the motivation to a person that, come on, you can do this, or you want this. Or if I say that I want to be always sleeping, then I have a facility. So this is the motivation factor, or this is the nourishment that we get in the material world. So Krishna is trying to compare this material world to a banyan tree. Okay. And he says that its branches are spreading up and down. What does it mean by up and down? Up and down means from the topmost planet, or from the higher heavenly planets till the bottommost patala loka. Okay. It is spreading up and down, but it has the same problems, which is it is driven by these three modes of material nature. Okay. It is nourished by these three modes. Okay. And its twigs are like sense objects. What are sense objects? Sense objects are the five senses that you have. So basically five senses that you have, but sense objects, for example, you have eyes. Okay. And you have eyesight, but you should also see something. For example, if you're closing your eyes and not willing to see anything, that means that, or if somebody is blind and he cannot see anything, then there is no sense object for that particular sense. So for that particular eyes, there is no role to play. He is not able to see anything. Now, for example, now we are all having eyesight. We can all see each other, and we can also see objects. So when we are seeing, we are getting a tendency, or we are getting carried away. For example, somebody watches a cricket match. So if he is a person who's very interested in cricket, he tends to get carried away by that. He wants to play cricket, or he wants to watch the match, or he's very interested in that subject. So this is happening because the interaction of the senses with the mind and intelligence. That is the reason why this is happening. So we have to understand that the three modes are actually driving us towards goodness, passion, ignorance, and with the help of sense objects, which are like twigs of the banyan tree. What is twigs? In a branch, there will be a tree. There is a tree, there is a root, and there are branches. Okay. Now, in the branch, there are also smaller branches, which are very insignificant, but it is there all around. So you can see that within the branches, there are multiple branches. Those are called as twigs. Okay. So Krishna is saying that the twigs are the sense objects. So its secondary roots are extending everywhere and binding the human society to fruitive actions. What are the secondary roots? So we are comparing to a banyan tree. Banyan tree has two roots. One, which is bottom down, in the sense which goes inside the ground, and on the top, from the tree also the roots hang and touch the ground, so that it gives support to the entire tree. So that is what Krishna is comparing this material world to a banyan tree. And this banyan tree, how it is binding all of us in this particular material nature. That is what is explained in the first two shlokas. Now, from material world to spiritual world, this is a continuation of that. The real form of this tree cannot be perceived. Now, yes, now I told you all this, and you are able to visualize it. But Krishna is saying this is an inverted banyan tree. So the real form you cannot see in this world. You can see the banyan tree, but you cannot see the inverted banyan tree. So it is not something which can be perceived. That is what is mentioned in the section 3 to 4. And but Krishna says that although it cannot be perceived, but this is your enemy, and this is what you have to cut. This is the tree that you have to cut with the axe of detachment. Why you have to cut this tree? Because of this reason. This tree has branches which is spreading up and down, which means that even if you go to the topmost planetary system, or you go to the bottommost, you are trapped by these three gunas, the three modes. And what these three modes do, they push your senses to get attracted to the sense objects, and this creates a binding, and that binding will make sure that you stay back in this world. So that is why he says that with the axe of detachment, you have to cut this tree. That is what he's saying in the third to fourth verse. In the fifth verse, he says that now it is not just possible to cut the tree. Now I told you that please go and cut the tree. It doesn't mean that you go outside and see, look for some banyan tree and cut it. The banyan tree is within yourself. It's actually, you are existing there, and you have to cut this with knowledge. Once you get the knowledge of Krishna, then you can cut this particular banyan tree which is binding you in this particular world. Okay. So Krishna says in the fifth verse, which is Nirmana moha jita sanga dosha adhyatma nitya vinivritta kama tvandver vimukta sukha dukkha sanyir gacchantya mudha padamavyayam tat. Okay. He says that nirmana moha jita sanga dosha means nirmana moha. Nirmana means without false prestige. Moha means illusion. Jita sanga dosha. Okay. Jita means having conquered. So he says that those who are free, if you are free from false prestige, illusion, and false association. What is false prestige? False prestige means I am the controller, I am the doer. This is false prestige. Illusion means this entire I have got 50 to 60 years or 70 years, sometimes not even 5 seconds left in this world. Okay. But I'm still feeling that I'm managing things here. Things are so nice. I can improve things here. This is illusion. Okay. And although this is not permanent, and despite knowing all this, still I am continuing in this world. So those who are free from this understanding, where he knows that I should not be trapped by false prestige, I should know that this world is actually an illusion, and I should not be in the false association. Those who understand that, and who understand the eternal, and who have got rid of lust. He says that kama, you can see vinivritta in the second line. He says adhyatma nitya vinivritta kama. Kama means lust. So who are done with material lust? Material lust means I want something, I want house, I want car, I want something. You have millions of desires. I don't have to tell you what is material lust. Material lust means I want something, I want to extract something from this world. That feeling you should get out of. Okay. In fact, you should not even have one minute thing that you want to get in this world. If you have that kind of detachment, then you can get rid of this particular world and go back to the spiritual world. It is easily possible if you are in the association of devotees, if you have knowledge, and if you follow the practices which are prescribed in the Shastras. Okay. So now, once you are free from this material lust, and you are free from the dualities of happiness and distress, and you are no more bewildered, then you are eligible to surrender to the Supreme Lord and attain his eternal kingdom. That is what is mentioned in this particular shloka, which is the fifth shloka. Nirmana moha jita sanga dosha adhyatma nitya vinivritta kama dvandver vimukta sukha dukkha samnir gacchantya mudha padamavyayam tat. So that is how you get the eternal avyayam, padam avyayam situation, that eternal situation. You get to that eternal position by cutting this acts of detachment, and by getting rid of this false prestige, illusion, false association. And when you are completely satisfied that I don't want anything from this material world, and you are not disturbed by happiness or distress, and you are not bewildered by anything that is happening in this world, then you are eligible to get, or then you are eligible to surrender. And with that surrender, you will get to the eternal stage where you are able to interact with the Lord. So the first section of this particular chapter is over. Second section, home, on and on, over and over again. Let's see what is this. Okay. Here, what we are trying to say is, in the sixth verse, Krishna says that qualities of the spiritual world or Goloka Vrindavana. He says, now I told you what is material world, what is spiritual world. Okay. I told you that, there is a banyan tree. And if you see that banyan tree in water, the inverted image you see, and that image, material world, I told you, is a perverted reflection of the spiritual world. And Krishna is giving example where it is an inverted banyan tree. So basically, you have the same activities happening in both places, but it is perfect in spiritual world and it is imperfectly done in material world. So Krishna now says, okay, then what is there in the spiritual world? Let me disclose that to you. So in the sixth verse, he's saying, न तद्भाषयते सूर्यो न शशांको न पावकः यद्गत्वा न निवर्तन्ते तद्धाम परमं मम. So he's saying that न तद्भाषयते सूर्यो, सूर्यो means sun, and bhashayate means illuminates. So he says that न तद्भाषयते सूर्यो means that world is not illuminated by sun. Okay. Na shashanko na pavakaha. Shashanka means the moon. So he says that neither is it illuminated by the moon. Napavakaha. Napavakaha means neither is it illuminated by fire. So in this world, can you say that there is light without any of these three things? Can you say, if anyone in this world, any scientist in this world, does he have guts to say that Natad bhashayate suryo nashashanko napavakaha? If there is any scientist in this world who can tell that there is illumination in this world without sun, without moon, and without fire, then I will surrender myself to him. It is impossible for any person in this world to say this statement. So Krishna is making this statement that my Goloka Vrindavan, my Dhama, is not lit by your sun, it is not brightened by the moon, neither is it illuminated by the fire or electricity. Okay, so he says, Yad Gatvana Nivartante. Continuing to that, he says, first, he says that, first of all, try to understand the difference between the material world and spiritual world. Okay, next, he's trying to say that my abode is not illuminated by sun, moon, and fire. My abode is illuminated by what? That he will tell later. Okay, he says that Yad Gatvana Nivartante Tad Dhama Paramam Mama. He says that those Yad Gatvana Nivartante means, Gatva means going. After going there, this person will never return to this material world. So once you go there, you have done your activities here, you are satisfied that I'm not able to achieve anything here. Whatever I achieve here, it is temporary and it get destroyed with time. And once I get that real intelligence, and with that intelligence I surrender to the Lord, I serve him, and when he sees that intent of service, he takes us back to the spiritual world. Once he takes us back to the spiritual world, he says that you will never return to this material world. What more guarantee do you want? So this is what is explained in this particular shloka. He says that in the spiritual world, it is not illuminated by sun, it is not illuminated by moon, it is not illuminated by fire. And if you have the qualities or the qualification to go to that place, then once you enter that place, you will never come back here. That is what Krishna is guaranteeing. Now, a living entity will not be satisfied unless he reaches the supreme abode, because it is his constitutional position. Okay, and that Krishna explains further. Now, there are 5 types of rasas in which Krishna interacts with his devotees in the spiritual world. So, we already told you how the spiritual world is. Spiritual world is illuminated. Now, if somebody might ask a question, then if there is no fire, if there is no sun, if there is no moon, then how is light coming there? So, Krishna, we told you that Krishna has natural effulgence. That effulgence actually brightens the spiritual world. So that spiritual world, just by his presence, is automatically brightened. Okay, only the darkness is there in this material world. So that is how spiritual world is. Now, what are the interactions of Krishna with his devotees in the spiritual world? Those interactions are seen in this image. Now, there are 5 types of loving exchanges of the Lord with the souls in the spiritual world. So once all of us go back, see, ultimately, those who are on this call, we have to understand we have no choice. Okay, whether it is today, whether it is in this life, or whether it is after 100 lifetimes, you have no choice, but you have to suffer in this material world, or you can go to the spiritual world. These are the only 2 choices you have. If you choose to suffer in the suffer in the material world, you can continue with whatever you're doing after 18 days of this class, because although, but I would say that you are in a much greater disadvantage than a person who has not attended this session, because a person who has not attended this session, he is in ignorance, and Krishna knows that he's in ignorance. But a person who has attended this session, please make a note of this very clearly. At the time of death, when Yamraj or Vishnuduta or whoever comes to you and he'll ask you that you attended this session, what did you do with it? Then you can also give your justification. But I'm just trying to remind you that a person who is outside and not attended this session, he does not know why he is existing in this material world and what are the defects of this material world. For him, it is fine. He might do some fault and get trapped and stay back here. That is okay. But for you, you know that what is the difference between material world. You knew everything and still you didn't follow, because you were trapped by the 3 modes of material nature. And because you were trapped, you are supposed to stay here. But the suffering you might get may be maybe a little bit less, but you may have to stay a bit longer. So why it will be little less? Because you spent your 18 days for Krishna. So Krishna says that if you do a little bit, swalpam apyasa dharmasya, even little bit of dharma, then it will save you from the greatest of dangers. Yes, but at the same time, you didn't complete your activity. So one is doing the activity which will save you from greatest of danger. Second is you didn't do your 100%. So till you do the 100%, you can't get to that place where the Lord is residing. Now, fine, you did all that. You are all very successful. Now we are all have gone to Goloka. Now what will we do once we go to Goloka? What is the activities that Krishna is doing in Goloka? That everybody wants to know. So he says there are 5 loving exchanges of the Lord with the souls in the spiritual world. What are the 5 loving exchanges? The 5 loving exchanges are Krishna interacts with his devotees as per their wish. So there are different rasas or loving exchanges. So in English it is called loving exchanges, but it is called rasa. So there are different rasas in which Krishna interacts with his devotees. One is Shanta rasa, then Dasya rasa. Third one is Sakhya rasa, Vatsalya rasa, and Madhurya rasa. So Shanta rasa means you can be a flower, or you can be a fruit, you can be grass, you can be tree, where you're peaceful and you're relaxed. You just want to be with the Lord. So with that intent, you have gone to Goloka. So you will be, yes, you will be a living entity there. You will be active, just like there is. I told you this material world and spiritual world. The difference is material world is perverted reflection of the spiritual world. Now, if there is a tree in material world, that means there is tree in spiritual world also. But the purpose of a tree in spiritual world is different from what it is there in material world. So we have to understand that different type of exchanges happens based on the real identity that we have. That is, when we go back to our original constitutional position, which is the Goloka Dhama, or the residence of Krishna, or Goloka Vrindavana, when we go back there, then we have 5 types of methods in which we can interact with Krishna. Shanta rasa means you can be a flower, grass, tree, or something like that. Dasya rasa means you can be a dasa, like Prahlada or Hanuman. You can be a servant of the Lord, personal servant of the Lord. Then Sakhya rasa. Sakhya rasa means you can be friendly. You will have friendly exchanges. You can see that even in when Krishna was here, he had friendly exchanges. He was eating, sharing his food, and he was stealing butter. He used to make a lot of fun. So that kind of friendly exchanges you can have in Sakhya rasa. Sakhya rasa. Next one is Vatsalya rasa. In Vatsalya rasa, what happens? If you can interact. Vatsalya means like a father, mother, etc. So these kind of positions where you are looking, or you are seeming to be higher in age than Krishna, and you are seeming to be in a higher, in a more serious position than Krishna. At the same time, you have lot of affection, care, and compassion for the Lord. So you end up in the spiritual world performing those activities where you can behave as a father or a mother or a devotee who's older, and something like, to give you an example, something like Yashoda and Nanda Maharaj. Okay, next, that is Vatsalya rasa. So I told you Shanta rasa, Dasya rasa, Sakhya rasa, Vatsalya rasa, and Madhurya rasa. That is what Prabhupada says. All devotees of ISKCON are actually targeting for Madhurya rasa, and because we are chanting, and if we chant offenselessly daily morning, when we are chanting, before we begin our chanting session, we are reciting the 10 offenses or the 10 mistakes we should not do when we are chanting the holy names. Why we are doing that is because if we have any of those 10 offenses, it becomes a roadblock for our progress to spiritual world. So we have to understand that we have to get rid of those 5 problems, or sorry, those 10 issues. Which are the 10 issues? The 10 offenses to the holy name. If you want to know what are the 10 offenses to the holy name, please come to the chanting session 7 o'clock in the morning every day, and you will know what are the 10 offenses. If you avoid those 10 offenses, then, and you chant attentively, then Srila Prabhupada says that by default, you will go to the Madhurya stage, which is the highest. And what is the Madhurya stage? It is called Krishna Prema, or loving interaction with the Lord. You become one of the friends of the Lord, or one of the lovers of the Lord, and you can have direct interaction. What more do you want? You become the lover of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now, even if you become the lover of the Supreme Person in India, still it is such a high position which you can't imagine. So just imagine you are becoming a lover of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, or the owner of the entire creation. You are becoming his lover. So is there anything greater than that? Or is there anything greater than being the beloved of the Supreme Person? No. So that is what Srila Prabhupada says, that although we have Shanta Rasa, Dasya Rasa, Sakhya Rasa, Vatsalya Rasa, and Madhurya Rasa, devotees of ISKCON or the Krishna consciousness movement, by default, we are targeting for the Madhurya Rasa, And with that Madhurya Rasa, we will get Krishna Prema or loving exchanges. We can have loving exchanges with the Lord. So this is what is the 5 types of loving exchanges, which are the interactions that we have with the Lord in the spiritual world. So don't ask next time, what will I go to the spiritual world and do? There is no IT company there. There is no programming happening. There is no traffic jam. There is no problem. There are no husband and wife fights. So what will I do in the spiritual world? So this is what you will do in the spiritual world. This is what is Krishna explaining. So we already said the difference between material world and spiritual world. Material world is a perverted reflection of the spiritual world, and it is like an inverted banyan tree. And we also heard that Krishna is saying that in the spiritual world, it is not illuminated by sun, moon, or fire. It is just his presence which is illuminating the entire place. And what are the 5 types of exchanges we have come here? Now there are karma. One is karma itself. Then there is karma and there is vikarma. I think you have already gone through this in some sections which was discussed earlier in the Bhagavad Gita class. You have already gone through this, but I will just like to summarize. Basically, somebody who is in akarma, when the living entity chooses to serve Krishna, it is called akarma or devotional service. So what is akarma? Karma means I'm doing something. Now, when I'm doing something, there is some result coming out of it. For example, if I'm boarding a bus, okay, I'm doing something, I'm boarding the bus. But boarding the bus, is it without understanding the destination? Then you're mad. So you will board the bus because you have a destination in mind. So you will board the bus. Now, karma is like that. When you're doing some activity, you are doing it because you have some intent behind it. If the intent behind it is your personal satisfaction, then it is karma. But if the intent behind it is Krishna's satisfaction, then it is akarma. Okay. So this is what we have to understand. Now, if you do akarma, you get freed from the cycle of birth and death, and finally you get the supreme destination. Next, we will go to the 7th to 9th verses. Here, Krishna is talking about the identity of the living entity or the mind's power to determine the jiva's future. Now, in the 7th verse, this is a very famous verse, and we have to remember this always. Krishna says that Mamai Vamsho Jiva Loke Jiva Bhuta Sanatanaha Manashastanindriyani Prakritisthani Karshati. So, this is what Krishna says. So, Mamai Vamsho Jiva Loke, which means that Mamai Vamsha, Amsha means fragment. Okay, Mamai Vamsha means my entity, my Amsha. Actually, we are all his Amsha. Jiva Loke, Jiva Bhuta Sanatanaha. Okay, the living entities in this world are my eternal fragmental parts. So, whether you want to be a devotee of Krishna or not, whether you want to be, whomever you want to be, ultimately you are eternal fragmental parts of Krishna. Whether you accept it or not, this Krishna is declaring. Okay, so he says in the Bhagavad Gita very clearly to Arjuna here that Mamai Vamsho Jiva Loke Jiva Bhuta Sanatanaha Mana Shastan Indriyani Prakriti Sthani Karshati, which means that these living entities are my part and parcel. Due to conditioned life, what is conditioning? The 3 modes are conditioning us. Okay, they are struggling very hard with their senses, which include the mind. So they are struggling very hard not to go to office. They are struggling hard with their senses. The senses are giving them the wrong direction. They are giving a wrong perception of this illusion. Okay. Now, because of that wrong perception, they are struggling here. That is why Krishna has given this knowledge so that you can take benefit of this knowledge and shift your direction. The direction right now is different. Before attending this class, your goal in life was different. Your objectives was different. Now, after getting this knowledge, your direction should change. Yes, you should not stop doing all those activities. You can continue doing whatever you need for your livelihood, but you see what is unnecessary and keep dropping it and start accepting things which are favorable for Krishna consciousness. Because Krishna is saying that eternally you are my fragmental parts in this shloka. But due to conditioned life, you are struggling very hard with your 6 senses and the mind. Now, then further Krishna explains how you are struggling and how you are going into different bodies. This is what you have to, this is the crux. And it says how you are going into different bodies. In the 8th verse, Krishna says, Shariram yadavapnoti yachapyutka utkramatishwaraha grihit vetani samyati vayur gandham ivashayat. Okay, just like vayur gandham ivasyat. So he says that the change of bodies happens just like the conceptions of air, as air carries aroma. For example, you're passing by a sandalwood forest. Will you get smell of charcoal? No, you will get smell of sandalwood. If you're passing by Vrindavan where there are a lot of tulusis, you will get an aroma of tulasi. Similarly, if you're passing by stool, you will get stink. So does that mean the air is contaminated? No, that does not mean that the air is contaminated. It is because the air is carrying that aroma. That particular substance has that aroma. So it is carrying that aroma. Similarly, what is your consciousness? If your consciousness is like stool, then you carry that aroma with you to the next life. If your consciousness is like a flower, which is very pure, and you have a nice fragrance, which means that you're in the mode of goodness, or you have good understanding of the world, you're very peaceful, then that you carry to the next life. Just like how air carries aroma, similarly all your gunas you carry towards the next destination, which is your next body. So he says in the 8th and 9th verse, like this the soul changes different bodies, just like how air carries the aroma. Similarly, the living being or the living entity, he carries all his practices, all his behavioral tendencies, he carries it just like how the air carries aroma to the next life. So the jiva enjoys similarly once he goes to the next body based on his taste. It is his taste, not, we are not imposing it. Everybody is different, everybody has his own taste, everybody has his own likes and dislikes. Now he's carrying that forward to a more favorable body where he can execute that. For example, if he likes eating a lot, he can become a pig. So we can't stop that, because that is his liking, that is what he wants to do. He likes to eat a lot. So Krishna is giving a more favorable body, which, why do you want a human birth to eat? You can sit in a pig's body and eat. So he allows you to move into the pig's body slowly, just like how the air carries the fragrance. Similarly, this life air will carry your fragrance of eating to the next body of a pig. So that is how you have to understand this transformation. This is what Krishna is saying in the 8th and 9th shloka. So now when you see disparity, somebody says there's so much of injustice in this world. Why is God impartial? Why is God partial? All these things will come up. Somebody is black, somebody is small, somebody is big, somebody is fair, somebody is bald, somebody is having a lot of hair, somebody is blind, somebody has eyesight. So many things. Somebody is born in a country where there's so much of wealth. Somebody is born in a country where there's no food at all. So it is happening because you wanted that. You wanted to suffer that way. So you came into that body in that place, that time and that circumstance. So this is the disparity you see in this world. Then you see somebody is rich, somebody is poor, somebody is strong, somebody is weak. Why this is happening? Because of your behavioral patterns, because of your tendency. Somebody is beautiful, somebody is ugly, then somebody is healthy, somebody is diseased. So this is how, the soul just like how the wind carries the aroma, similarly the soul carries our practices and our behavioral patterns and our tendencies and our consciousness to the next body. So soul's transmigration, this Krishna is explaining further in the 10th verse. He says that उत्क्रामन्तं स्थितं वापि भुञ्जानां वा गुणान्वितं विमूढानानुपश्यन्ति पश्यन्ति ज्ञानचक्षुषः. Chakshu means vision. Jnana means with the vision of knowledge. What you will see with the vision of knowledge? That Krishna says that one who has eyes which is trained to see in knowledge, then what can he see? Okay, he can see what? He can see what I told you just now, that a living entity is actually moving into the next body based on the aromas that he has, or the perception or the consciousness that he has. Only with knowledge you can understand this. Without knowledge, you cannot understand this particular concept. So Krishna says further that yatanto yoginas chainam pasyantyatmanyavastitam yatanto vyakratatmano nainam pashyant yacetasaha, which means that the transcendentalist, who's a transcendentalist? There is a spiritualist and a transcendentalist. Somebody who's on a spiritual path is a transcendentalist, who's situated in self-realization, can see all this clearly. See all what clearly? How the bodies are moving from one place to another place, how the soul is moving from one body to another body based on his consciousness. That you can get only with knowledge. So we have to understand that who will give you this knowledge? You will get this knowledge from a bona fide spiritual master. So if we didn't have somebody like Srila Prabhupada who was translating these books for us, who was given word to word definition in the Bhagavad Gita, and if we didn't have teachers to teach us, although there is a Bhagavad Gita in front of us, although there is a word to word translation, although everything is there ready made in front of us, still, if we didn't have somebody to explain this, it would have been very difficult for us to understand. Just like I may be saying all this, but I have also got this knowledge from somebody who explained it to me, or somebody with whom I spent and try to understand this particular knowledge. So that is the importance of Guru. Now we should know that this is the reason why Guru is very important in our life. Without Guru, we will not be able to understand the real position of our life. So that is why Krishna says here that for you to understand this position or this transformation, it requires knowledge. And if you have knowledge, you get that jnana chakshu, means the vision. With that vision, with that knowledge, you get the vision to see things as they are. Next, the third section, which is maintainer of, who is the maintainer of body, mind, and soul. So Krishna answers this perfectly. This particular chapter is only about Krishna, the yoga of the supreme person. Why you should do loving devotional service to the supreme person. That is what is explained in this particular chapter. So in the next 4 verses, which is 12 to 15, Krishna is telling about the cosmological arrangements. We showed you the video at the beginning of this class. That is cosmological arrangement. Then we showed you terrestrial arrangement. We didn't show you physiological and spiritual arrangement. That I will explain to you. So cosmological and terrestrial arrangement, what is it? Let us find out. Okay. So we'll just skip these slides. Okay. This one we'll see. So this is the video which we saw. He says that Yadaditya gatam tejo jagad bhashayate khilam yat chandramasi yat chagno tat tejo vidhi mamakam. So Krishna is saying that the sun, just like if there is sunlight, okay, that sunlight actually removes darkness. So you are sitting in a dark room, and if you want to see where the objects are placed, you should turn on the light. Similarly, this material world is a dark place. Just now it is, now what is the time? It is going to be 8 o'clock. It is 8 o'clock in the night. So if just imagine there is no electricity in this world, so it is dark place. If there is no moonlight, just imagine you will not be able to see things where they are. That is the requirement of, that is why there is a requirement of electricity. Electricity comes from what? From fire. Okay. Without fire, there will be no electricity. All these ingredients are provided by Krishna. So Krishna says, the splendor of the sun, which dissipates the dark of this whole world, darkness of this whole world, comes from me. Okay. And the splendor of the moon and the splendor of the fire, everything comes from me. Krishna is saying he is guaranteeing that this sun, moon, fire, the splendor or the brightness that is coming out from these things are only because of the presence of Krishna. He is the source of sun, moon, and fire. Okay. And he also says further that Gama Vishyacha Bhutani Dharayamyaham Ojasa Pushnami Chaushadi Sarva Somo Bhutva Rasatmakaha. So he says that I enter into each planet. He's entering into each planet, and with his energy, that planet is staying in the orbit. So just imagine, all of us are actually, we are all human beings. We have 2 legs. If you see the animals, they have 4 legs. If you see that the animals are not able to balance themselves in 2 legs, but how the human being is able to balance. So this I'm giving you a gross example, means what you're seeing in front of your eyes, I'm just trying to explain. Okay. Yes, there is some balance, there is a fluid in between the ears. That means if you go biologically, they'll give you 100 explanations. But if you ask them to put the same fluid between the dog's ears and remove 2 legs of the dog, will the dog stand? That nobody can say. So I'm just giving a very gross example, but just try to understand. The sun is actually suspended in the air. So why can't any of us throw some plate in the air and keep it suspended there for 24 hours? Let's see if it is possible. It is not possible. So Krishna is saying, my energy is holding it there. Because of my energy, these planetary systems are moving with my energy in that orbit. Okay. And it is moving in that particular force, that particular direction. You are measuring, oh, it is going at this kilometers per hour or this miles per hour. You are measuring. That's all. You're a scientist, you may be measuring, but you should have that basic common sense that fine, I'm measuring and I'm calculating the speed, but who's given this energy and the strength for this particular object to move and move in this particular direction at this particular force or velocity? Who has given that? So Krishna is saying that I enter into each planet, and by my energy they stay in the orbit. I become the moon and thereby supply the juice of life to all vegetables. So Krishna is saying that these vegetables, what you're saying, you're putting it in your mouth and you're saying that, oh, it's so nice. Fruits you're eating and you're saying that apple has such a nice sweet taste. Watermelon has, is so juicy. And the grapes, you are tasting all this. But who's giving the juice? He says that because of the presence of moon, that moon's the effulgence is actually giving juice into all these fruits and vegetables. So Krishna is saying that is my energy. It is nothing else. You are able to taste it. That is fine. But if you eat mud, do you get the taste? He says no, because he has put for specific things. He has given the juice. He supplies the juice of life. So that is what he says, that I am entering into each of these planets, and my energy, with my energy, they are staying in the orbit. Also, I am the moon, and I also supply the juice of life. So Krishna is giving details about himself in this chapter. That is why it is called as the yoga of the supreme person, or it is called as Purushottama yoga.
Prabhuji, Hare Krishna. Prabhuji, that you are looking that video that is in that same slide.
Yeah, that's fine, Prabhu. I think I just gave an explanation. So they'll understand. We'll see the video toward, or it's okay. Even if they don't see the video, it's fine. I think they're already visualizing. When I'm telling this, I'm sure that they are able to visualize. So what I'm trying to, okay, let's see if I can show. No, this is not the video. This one is the video.
First one, top. Yeah.
Yes. So I'll just show you. See, with the presence of sunlight, just with the presence of sunlight, who is doing this? Is the scientist doing? Is the biggest company in the world doing this? Who is doing this? Krishna is saying that I enter into each planet, and because of my energy, they stay in the orbit, and because of my presence, there is this juice is supplied to all the fruits and vegetables. So what we are trying to show is, this is what we are trying to show. I become the moon and thereby supply the juice of life to all vegetables. Krishna, in the 14th and 15th verse, he says that he is our maintainer also. How is he our maintainer? He's saying that you may be in a material body, that's fine, but I am only maintaining you there also. He says, Krishna says that he is the digestive fire. He says that Aham Vaishvanaro Bhutva Praninam Deham Ashritah Pranapana Samayukta Panchamyannam Chaturvidham Pachamanyam Chaturvidham. Okay, so there are 4 types of foodstuffs. Okay, and those 4 types of foodstuffs, they can be digested only because I am present in your stomach as fire. And what are the 4 kinds of foodstuffs? Those are the foodstuffs which can be swallowed, which can be chewed, which can be licked, and which can be sucked. So these are the 4 types of foodstuffs. You just see any food that you're eating, it can either be swallowed, or it can be chewed, it can be licked, or it can be sucked. These are the only 4 types of foodstuffs which are available in this world. And Krishna is saying that these 4 types of foodstuffs are entering into your stomach. Don't think that some scientist has put some chemical thing there and it is happening. Nothing is happening. It is happening because I am present in your stomach as fire. Aham Vaishvanaro Bhutva Praninam Deham Ashritah Pranapana Samayukta. He says that prana, the outgoing air, and the incoming air. Prana Pana means prana and apana. Prana is the outgoing air, apana is the downgoing air. So downgoing means what is going inside your stomach. Outgoing means what is going outside your nose. So outgoing and the incoming both is managed by Krishna. And because he is managing that, that is the reason you are able to digest all the foodstuffs. Okay. And he also says that I'm entering into your, my energy is entering into you. Vaishwanara means, Vaishwanara Bhutva means my plenary portion as a digesting fire. So I'm also sitting in your stomach as a digestive fire, because of which you're able to enjoy 4 kinds of foodstuffs, which can be chewed, swallowed, licked, and sucked. These are the 4 kinds of foodstuffs. Next, this is what is about your body. Okay. Next, he says, as Paramatma, Krishna initiates all activities. He says, this is also a very famous verse. Sarvasya chaham hridi sannivishto matta smritir jnanam apohanam cha vedescha sarve rahameva vedyo vedanta krit veda videva chaham. What is he saying? He's saying that I am seated in everyone's heart, and from me comes remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. So if somebody is telling that, I ate gulab jamun today, next question I'll ask you, can you tell me when was the last time you ate gulab jamun? No answer. So Krishna says that Sarvasya chaham hridi sannivishto matta smritir jnanam apohanam cha vedesya sarve rahameva vedyo vedanta krit veda videha chaham matta smritir jnanam apohanam cha. Matta means what? From me. Smriti means what? Remembrance. Jnanam means what? Knowledge. Apohanam means what? Forgetfulness. He says, from me comes intelligence, remembrance, and forgetfulness. Can somebody guarantee that? Nobody can say this in the world, that from me comes intelligence, remembrance, and forgetfulness. But Krishna is telling that here to Arjuna, that from me comes intelligence, remembrance, and forgetfulness. Okay. And he says, Pranapanas, sorry, and he says, Vedescha sarve ahameva vedye, ahameva vedyo, Vedanta krit veda videha chaham. He says, Vedescha sarver, by all the Vedas, ahameva vedyo. Aham means I am to be known. Okay. Vedanta krit veda videha chaham. He says that I am also although I am to be known, I'm also the compiler, and I'm also the knower of the Vedas. So one is, from the Vedas you have to understand me. I am only the compiler of the Vedas, and I am also the knower of the Vedas. So Krishna is summarizing everything, telling, although you are reading the Vedas, that Vedas is actually, you are supposed to know me from the Vedas, and I am only the compiler of the Vedas, and I am the knower of the Vedas. So he says that I have the knowledge, I am the source of the knowledge, and I am to be known with the knowledge. That is what he's trying to say in this particular shloka. So this shloka is very important. Sarvasya chaham. When somebody says that why there is remembrance, intelligence, he says that Krishna gives. I give intelligence, remembrance, and forgetfulness. Sarvasya chaham hridi sannivishto matta smritir jnanam apohanam cha vedesya sarve rahameva vedyo vedanta krit veda videha chaham. So this is a simple example, whatever we discussed just now. So Krishna is the incoming and outgoing air into your body, which is able to digest your different foodstuffs. Unless the Supreme Lord helps you in digesting, we cannot enjoy any eating activity. If you are not able to digest, why will you even eat? It may be giving a lot of taste, but you can only spit it out. Okay. So you're able to digest. That is why you're able to eat. You're able to enjoy it. He says that I'm seated in everyone's heart as Paramatma. Sarvasya chaham hridi sannivishto. You can see the image. In everyone's heart, including your heart, my heart, everyone's heart, Krishna is seated as Paramatma. And from me comes remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. So he says that it is because of me that you may be remembering a lot of things. It is because of me that you have knowledge, and it is because of me that you are able to forget. So imagine waking up one day morning and you suddenly don't know who you are, what is your name, which country you belong to, what is this human body, nothing you know. So you have to be thankful to the Lord always. By all the Vedas, I am to be known. Krishna says that Vedescha sarver ahameva vedya. I am to be known. Okay? Indeed, I am the compiler of the Vedanta. Vedanta krit veda videha chaham. I am the compiler of the Vedanta, and I am also the knower of the Vedas. So why does Krishna present the Vedic knowledge? Because the living entity needs to understand Krishna for his own benefit. So although he has sent you to this world for your own enjoyment, you wanted to enjoy independently, you wanted to lord over the material nature, you wanted to become the master, so you came here. But Krishna is our supreme friend and well-wisher. He does not want to leave us just like that in some isolated place. So what he has done, along with that, he has given the Vedas also, so that the Vedas can give you a direction that you have to go back to the Supreme Lord, without which you will not be happy. So by understanding the Vedas, one can know the relationship with God, which is called Sambandha. Abhideya means he knows the processes by which he can approach him, and Prayojana means he knows the result, or what happens when he attains the supreme goal. So all the three he's giving in the Vedas. He says, what is the relationship between you and me? You and me means between myself and the Supreme Lord. Abhideya means the processes by which one can approach him. What are the processes by which one can approach him? Once you know about the relationship, how do you get to him? That is, God is there in the Abhideya. And what is the Prayojana? What is the result of getting to him? That is also explained in the Vedas. So the last section is, we are all going back to our home. How to get back to our home? Essence is there in these three verses. Okay. So we have to understand that two kinds of living entities are there. One is Kshara and Akshara. Akshara is not the word that you're talking about. It is Kshara means fallible. Akshara means infallible. Fallible means somebody who makes mistakes, that is Kshara. And Akshara means somebody who does not make mistakes. Okay. So, what is Krishna trying to say? Dvavimau purushau loke ksharaschaksara eva cha ksharas sarvani bhutani kutastho shara uchyate. He says there are two classes of beings, the fallible and the infallible. So I said that fallible means one who has a tendency to make mistakes. So if you have a tendency to make mistakes, you will be there in the material world. If you have no tendency of making mistake, then you will be in the spiritual world. Why? Because that spiritual world is a world where there are no tendencies of making mistakes. The world, that world has been created like that. So you have to understand that there are two types of living entities. One is Kshara and the other one is Akshara. Tvavimau Purushau Loke, Ksharas Chakshara Evacha, Ksharas Sarvani Bhutani, Kutastho Kshara Uchyate. Then after that he says that yes, there is fallible and infallible. One who has a tendency to make mistakes, one who does not have tendency to make mistakes. The one who does not have tendency to make mistakes, he is a very sincere soul, so he stays with me. The one who has tendency to make mistakes, I've given him a separate place, let him enjoy there, which is the material world. Okay, and once he's done with his lust, anger, greed, and whatever, then he can come back to me by remembering me, realizing me, surrendering to me. Okay. Next in the 17th verse, he says, the super soul is behind Kshara and Akshara. Although there is an infallible and there is a person who is not infallible, still he says that I am neither both of these. Why? He says in this shloka, he says, Uttama Purushas Tvanya. He says, Uttama Purushas Tvanya Paramatme Tudahrataha Yo Lokatrayam Avishya Bhibartavyaya Ishwaraha. So he says that Uttama Purusha. So all the people who say that God is formless, God is that, God is only light, and all that, they are actually slapped in this particular verse, because Krishna is very clearly declaring that besides these two, what are these two? The fallible and the infallible. He says that there is the greatest living personality, means he is the person. Uttama Purusha means what? Person. Purusha is person. You can't say light as Purusha. You will say a person as Purusha, a personality as Purusha. He says Uttama Purusha means the topmost person. And he says there is the greatest living entity, the Supreme Soul, the imperishable Lord Himself, who has entered into the three worlds and is maintaining them. So the Supreme Lord has entered into the three worlds and He is maintaining everyone. So that Supreme Person is Purusha, and that Uttama Purusha. Okay, that is why this chapter is called as Purushottama Yoga. Purushottama means among all people, He is the Supreme. So Purushottama Yoga. That is why he says that although there is Kshara and there is Akshara, two types of living entities, one who makes mistakes, one who does not make mistakes. I am beyond that. I am the source of everything. So I am the creator of both and I am beyond them. That is what he says in the 17th verse. Then what does he say in the 18th verse? He says, the Supreme Lord says in the 18th verse that Yasmat Ksharamati Toham Aksharad Apichottamaha Athosmis Loke Vedecha Pratita Purushottama. He says, because I'm transcendental, transcendental means spiritual and beyond material. So because I am transcendental, beyond both the fallible and the infallible, and because I am the greatest, I'm celebrated both in the world and in the Vedas as the Supreme Person. So in the world, in the Vedas, all the Vedas accept that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and similarly in the world and in the Vedas or at any place, he is accepted as the Supreme Person. And in the first chapter, we had discussed from whom we have to. Yes, your neighbor might be telling that Krishna is not a supreme. That does not that has no validity, because we have to take reference from Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. Okay, so when we are taking reference from there, and if all of them are telling Krishna is supreme, then what your neighbor says or what Pakistan says, we don't have to worry, because Krishna has declared here that Yasmat Charamati Aksharad Apichottamaha Atosmi Loke Vedecha Pratita Purushottama. So he says, so whatever we just spoke, that is what it is. Infallible, you can see on the left, who has tendency of making mistakes and he repents for it. On the other side, you can see Hanuman. He is very fixed that he has to serve the Lord, so he has no tendency of making mistake. Whatever action he does will be keeping the Lord's benefit in mind. In the material world, every living entity is fallible. All of us are subject to making mistakes in the material world. and in the spiritual world, every living entity is infallible. So this is a training ground. We are making mistakes, but we have the Vedas, we have the knowledge, we have the spiritual master, we have given all the guidance, and we have given all the tools, and we have given all the information and knowledge in Bhagavad Gita. Using this, we have to supersede all these forces in the material nature and go back to the Supreme Lord. Besides these two, the living entity, besides these two, there is the greatest living personality, the Supreme Soul, the imperishable Lord Himself, who has entered into the three worlds and maintaining them, because I am transcendental, beyond both the fallible and infallible. And because I am the greatest, I am celebrated both in the world and in the Vedas as that Supreme Person. Whoever knows me as the Supreme Personality of Godhead without doubting, after reading all this also, if you are doubting, then there is no chance to go to the Lord. Okay, you can go to the place where you have faith, but if you have no doubt, that is what Krishna says, that without doubting, you start practicing the process automatically. Even if you have doubts, those doubts will be cleared. But without practicing, you can't say that I have doubts. You have not practiced. So we have to understand that, uh, you know that chapati can be made, but you should have that chapati dough for that. You just look at the dough and you decide that chapati cannot be made, then that is up to you, that is your problem. So he says that whoever knows me as a person and without doubting, he should realize that yes, this is my ultimate goal, this is the ultimate person, so I have to go to him. So without doubting, if you have that faith, then you can get back to him, and he is the knower of everything. That person who is actually without doubt, you can see he surrendered to the Lord and he is the knower of everything. He therefore engages himself in full devotional service to me, O son of Bharata. This is the most confidential part of the Vedic scriptures, O sinless one, and it is disclosed now by me. Whoever understands this will become wise, and his endeavors will know perfection. And finally, Krishna says, knowing everything, knowing Krishna means knowing everything. So the last three verses of this chapter, knower of Krishna knows everything. Yo mam evam masammodho janati purushottamam sasarvavid bhajati mam sasarvavid bhajati mam. Okay. Sarva bhavena bharata. Sarva bhavena bharata. Bhajati means devotional service. So sasarva with bhavati, sorry, bhajati mam. So a person who does devotional service, whoever knows me as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and who has no doubts, he is actually the knower of everything. This we already discussed. He therefore engages himself in full devotional service. So sasarva with bhajati imam. He therefore engages himself in full devotional service, and he comes back to me. He says this to Arjuna. So he says, O son of Bharata. So sarva bhavena Bharata. So, and finally, the summary and falashruti. Shruti means sight. I already told you. Sorry, chakshu means sight. Shruti means your hearing. Okay. So falashruti means what is the final output, or what is the final result that is given here in the 20th verse, which is, or what is the summary of this entire chapter that is given here. So iti guhyatamam shastram. Guhyatamam. Guhyatamam means this is the most confidential part. Guhyatamam. Guhya uttamam. That is what we have to understand. So this is the most confidential. Okay. Iti guhyatamam shastram idam uktam mayanagha etad budva buddhiman syat krita krityascha bharata. Iti guhyatamam shastram idam uktam mayanagha etad budva buddhiman syat krita krityascha bharata. So he says that this is the most confidential part of the Vedic scriptures, O sinless one, and it is disclosed now by me. So he's saying that this is the most confidential. What? That I am the person who is to be known, and knower of Krishna knows everything. This is the most confidential part of the Vedic scriptures. Whoever understands this will become wise, and his endeavors will know perfection. So let's just quickly summarize today's chapter. Are we staying in the home? Is this our eternal home? No, this is just a hotel we have rented for a few days. We'll be kicked out of this place very soon. Before that, we should know what is our goal. So if you don't realize what is our goal, then the second section happens, which is on and on, over and over again. Just like how the air carries aromas, similarly, whatever consciousness we have, we carry that consciousness to the next body. Maintainer of body, mind, and soul. We already discussed that your stomach, you're able to digest different types of foodstuffs, because the Lord is actually moved into your stomach as the fire, and because of his presence of the fire, you are able to digest all the foodstuffs and you are able to enjoy all the foodstuffs. And not only that, he says that he's the maintainer of your mind, body, and the soul. So, what is the essence in all the three verses? Finally, he says that whoever knows this knowledge and whoever knows that I am the supreme without doubting, then he finally comes back to me. That is what is the summary. And this is called Purushottama Yoga. And also in this 19th verse, I wanted to tell you one more important thing here. If you see Janati Purusha, if you see the 19th verse, it says, Yomam evam asammudho. Asammudho means, Mudha means foolish people. Okay. And asammudho means the person who has knowledge and who is not foolish. So that kind of a person, he knows me as a person. Janati Purushottamam, Purusha Uttamam. So he's telling that I am a person. So he's declaring here that I am a person. So this is what is very important. And he also, we have to understand that in the 18th verse also he's telling Purushottama. He says in the 18th verse also that Yasmat Ksharamati Toham Aksharad. Where is the 18th verse? Okay. I'll just show you the 18th verse. In the 18th verse also, Krishna is telling that I'm Purushottama, I'm person. So anyway, I'll just read out the sloka. I'm not, it is very way behind. So Yasmat Ksharamati Toham Aksharadapi Chottamaha Atosmi Loke Vedecha Pratitha Purushottama. He says Purusha Uttama. Even in the 18th verse and in the 19th verse, he says that I am Purushottama. So we have to understand he's a person, and we have to understand that by knowing him without doubt, we can reach him. So this is the end of this particular chapter. Now I'm stopping the screen sharing. If anybody has doubts.
Thank you, Prabhu. Very wonderful class. So I'm unmuting the devotees. Devotee can directly ask their doubts.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. You can tell your name and then ask the question, Prabhu.
Prabhu, I'm Vamshi.
Yes, Prabhu. Yeah.
So the question what I had is not anything related to this chapter as such, but I just wanted to have a clarity on that. So basically, like it's also mentioned that everybody has their quota in maybe anything like happiness or sadness or sorrow or anything of that sort. So how true is that, and do we have any reference to that which says that how much ever you go behind for anything more, say maybe happiness, so you are eligible to only this much of quota, and after this it's only sufferings what you will be having. So I mean, just wanted to understand on that.
Yes, there are references, Prabhu, and I'll share the references with you. I'm not able to immediately recall, but there are references. But most important thing is, beauty, all the six opulences, basically, whatever six opulences you have, power, wealth, beauty, fame, intelligence, and renunciation. These are the six opulences anybody can have. Okay. This is already destined. In the sense, you cannot increase even a little bit more than what is destined for you in this life. In this chapter also, we discussed just like how the air carries aromas. Similarly, whatever is your consciousness, you carry to your next life. That means that you're doing a particular action, and based on that action, you are supposed to get some results. So there is a certain quota of results that you get. There is a timing for every body. It is not that we live eternally in each body. So if there is a timing, that means that everything is already destined. I think you can agree with that, because if you are saying that I'm going to live in a body of cockroach for 10 days, okay, which means that whatever has to happen there, or what are the possibilities that can happen there, is already destined. But I'm not talking about animal body. In the animal body, the intelligence, the mind, and knowledge is all restricted to only four things, which we already know, which is eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. They have only that much of knowledge. But in the human body, when you're actually coming to the human body, you have consciousness. Using that consciousness, whatever you need to get of these six opulences, that is already destined in this body. But what you can modify is your free will. Using your free will, you can decide your next destination. That is in your choice. So I'll give you the references. I don't have the references. I'm not able to recall immediately, but I can give you the references from Shastras where it says that you're only destined for that amount of wealth or beauty or whatever.
Got it. Thank you, Prabhu. And
Yes.
very nice class. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yeah. Any other questions? So how many people attended the session?
51.
Prabhuji?
Yes, Mataji.
This is Mrs. Viji here. I have a small doubt. So
Yes, Mataji.
my life is destined in this body now. Whatever is happening to me is destined.
Yes.
So if I reach to Krishna in this body, so what will be my next level? Next birth will be, do I reach Krishna or do I go to another body now?
Mataji,
Yeah.
this depends completely on your level of sincerity. In the
Okay.
sense, I'm not talking you specifically, I'm talking about me also, I'm talking about everybody. Okay. So, first of all, I need to know my destination. This I already said in the last class, that first I have to decide what is my destination. If my destination is I have to attain peace, or if I have to, my destination is I want to, enjoy some particular benefit, then based on that, I go to the next destination. But if my destination is to go to the Supreme Lord, then I should follow the instructions of the spiritual master. So instructions of spiritual master are very easy to follow, but depends on our interest.
Yeah.
Easy to follow if you're interested. If you're not interested, not easy to follow, very difficult to follow. So, for example, what is your favorite hobby?
Reading.
What, Mataji?
Reading.
Reading.
Yeah.
So I'll give you any book. For example, I'll give you a book uh, on chemical processes which happens in a chemical factory. Will you like reading that?
No.
Yeah.
No,
So reading, so reading is a very large subject. Okay.
yeah.
So what you are going to read on is very important. Similarly, in this life, you have so many things. You say that this is my hobby, but if you start reading on what do you like reading? You like reading comics? Okay, I'm giving you an example. So what is happening? Your consciousness is developed based on those things that you're reading. For example, I'm reading some political news. Daily I'm saying, oh, this flood has come in this place. Pakistan has fired some shell. Indian government has made these changes. I'm watching this. My consciousness is building on this. Okay. I'm watching some news anchor or I'm watching some person. My consciousness 24 hours, I'm focusing on that subject. I like that subject. Okay. So if you like that subject and if your consciousness is built on that subject, then your next body has to be designed based on that subject. So if your consciousness is built on Krishna, if you like reading Krishna's books, then along with reading Krishna's books, you will know what are the practices to be followed. And when you practice, when your practices are completely successful, then you go back to Krishna. But even if your practice is incomplete, Krishna assures you that you will get another opportunity to come back and practice and make yourself successful. So don't worry about this path. Other paths, I don't know. In the sense where you will end up, how much you will have to suffer, that is not that depends on individuals. Law of karma and also what the individual has done.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you so much. Wonderful class it was.
Thank you,
Very good.
Prabhuji. Prabhuji,
glory.
shall I add a bit? Your permission, with your permission.
Yes, Prabhu, please.
Mataji, actually, this class also means before we know that what we desire and what to deserve. Suppose I want a villa, just I'm giving a rough example. I want a villa and I have only 2 lakh. So it is not possible. So because of what we desire and we have to deserve, 2 things are there.
Yeah.
And actually, one time one devotee asked Prabhupada, what I will get next bath. Prabhupada asked, what is your hobby? He told swimming. Prabhupada told, you will be a fish. Means it's a joke. So it is because he likes to swim much. Like that, we have a previous chapter, like somebody wants to sleeping only. So let it have like a polar bear kind of thing. So we should have a desire to go to Golok Dham. So we have to desire as well as what we desire. That also 2 things depend upon.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you so much.
And I just want to add on top of that, Prabhu, this is the ideal way. But sometimes what happens, see what is happening in real life, right? When I say swimming, you are able to go and swim. You know that there is water and you are able to swim. So you know swimming. But here I'm telling that you worship Krishna, okay, and you give everything to Krishna. But you're not seeing Krishna. You're seeing Krishna as a form, but you're not actually interacting with the person. So you have to have faith. That is the basis, and that is what was discussed towards the end of this particular chapter, that you should not doubt. That is the essence, where you should maintain that faith should be steady till the end of your life. That faith should be steady in the spiritual master. Spiritual master is guaranteeing you, he will take you there. So that faith, if it is steady in spiritual practices, then the destination is guaranteed. Everybody will go back to Krishna. There is no other option. But Srila Prabhupada also said that many devotees in ISKCON, I'm again marking my words, many devotees in ISKCON will end up in heavenly planets. So it's very contradictory. It is because we still have material attachments. We may be saying hundreds of things. I'll give you a very raw example. Okay. All of us have families. All of us have families. Please listen to this example very attentively. Okay. All of us have families. This moment, Krishna comes and says, yes, I know that you want to come back to me. Come back. Let's go. How many of you are ready? Please raise your hand to leave your body right now and go back to Krishna Loka and serve Krishna. Mataji is ready. Madhusmita, Mataji, Krishna has noted this. So now the thing is, you should not say that, oh, my dear mother, oh, my dear father, oh, my dear house, what about my bank balance? No, nothing is allowed. The moment, your consciousness is fully prepared, when death comes, you should be able to call out the Lord's name, Krishna, and you should be able to die. So that is the reason why we are practicing. Why are we doing chanting? Do you think we have no other better work to do? We have hundreds of other things, but we are putting the packages that Navavidha Bhakti, which we said, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakhyam, Atmanivedanam. So these processes are described because with these processes, for example, you are doing Smaranam, okay, means you are remembering the Lord. Then Shravanam, you are hearing about the Lord, but you cannot keep hearing 24 hours. So 9 processes are given so that you can keep shifting and focusing on what you like. For example, I like to hear, let me hear as much as I can. But when I start losing that, let me start doing some devotional service. Let me start chanting. So there are 9 processes. That is why Krishna knows that in material world, it is very difficult to focus on one particular activity. So he has given 9 processes of devotional service. So even if we focus on any one of those 9 processes, we can go back to Krishna. So that is the essence. Good. I think 3 people have raised their hand. They said that, when death comes, I'm ready to leave everything and go. Now, Krishna has noticed this. So please be prepared. Not only that, sometimes what will happen, you will not die. One family member will die. And you should be able to digest that as a fact that this is what was destined to happen at this point of time. And this is Krishna's will. That is the reason why this person has left the body. So this is how you see spiritual life. This is how you see reality, that you are not in control of any person's life. If I have a stomach upset, you're a doctor. You can give a medicine. You will prescribe in the sheet and give me telling that you eat this medicine, your stomach upset will be all right. But what is the guarantee? There is no guarantee. Only the Lord should sanction. He should say that, yes, the Jiva desires. What is the Jiva's desire? Oh, I have stomach pain. Please, give me some medicine. This is Jiva's desire. And material nature facilitates. Material nature will arrange for a doctor. Material nature will arrange for a chemist, will arrange for a chemical company to manufacture that kind of medicine, will give the result in few cases. No medicine in this world is able to cure any disease 100%. That is guaranteed. But it is able to cure up to some cases 90%, some cases 95%. So based on the larger group of people and the study done on larger group of people, they roll out a medicine, but not everybody can get the result. So who sanctions the result? The Supreme Lord sanctions the result. So please remember, write down somewhere telling that if any family member dies, or if anyone very close to me dies, I should know that this is the will of the Lord. I will not be disturbed in that kind of a situation. Similarly, when I am dying, and I should be able to remember the Lord. So to remember the Lord, I should do the Navavidha Bhakti. I should be able to follow the instructions of the spiritual master. Remember one thing, that you cannot reach Krishna without the spiritual master. You need to have a spiritual master. You may have very, deep desire, but with that deep desire, if you don't have a spiritual master, you will get another life where you get a spiritual master. Okay, and then you continue. But if you have a spiritual master, it is the liberation is the next step. So that is what we need to understand. Okay, I think if any other questions, we can continue. Otherwise, we can stop. Anybody who wants to leave, please feel free and kindly come back for all the future chapters. Next chapter is demoniac, divine and demoniac. So
Very
you can
exciting.
know more about it. And the next 3 chapters are very crucial. So please come, and also please attend the chanting sessions, because the cleansing process happens there. This is theory.